Hi everyone, this is Vicious Vixen, and welcome to Morph Girl. I figured since it's Pride Month, what better time to kick off my LGBT Gaming series, where I play games with, of course, canonically trans or queer characters and relationships. So, this is a FMV horror game that's available on Steam, and I have seen a playthrough of it on the RPG Minx's channel. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to her new channel, Two Lesbians Play, go do it. But yeah, I've also tried recording this once before, but had some issues. Hopefully by now the issue is resolved, and hopefully I actually upload this by the end of June. So, alright, because I didn't save in the... Okay, never mind that. Just, let's go into a new game. So this game has multiple endings, and I'm gonna do this one playthrough and then do a separate video where I try to get all the endings and then just highlight the differences. So yeah, it has a save system, but it doesn't autosave. Also, when I watched this playthrough, it didn't have command prompts for specific actions, but now it does, which is really good. Also, this is only in window mode. This can't go full screen, so... My name is Elana Pierce. Hi, Elana. On Friday, it will have been a year since the death of my wife, Rebecca. Since then, my life has been one of tedium and monotonous routine. I work an underpaid office job at a failing insurance company. I don't have any friends and I rarely leave the house. And in just a few days, everything is going to change. Rebecca was a writer. Her reluctance to find real work put strain on both our finances and our relationship. During an argument over our accumulating debt, Rebecca suffered a seizure. She was quickly diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. She died 9 months later. Every day I watch her favorite movies, read her journals, and her short stories. What started out as a means to move on quickly became a routine that I couldn't escape. There is little to my life outside of what I have left of Rebecca. very quickly began to underperform at work. My boss was very understanding, but as the company started to lose money, coworkers began to resent me for the work I could not do. I was quickly relegated to my own office. Coworkers make hateful comments and drop hints about my supposed job security whenever I talk to them. Try not to talk to anybody. People tell me that I need to move on and get over Rebecca's death. I don't want to. I can't. So I won't. So these are the flashback scenes that, where you have to make certain decisions. And, the decisions that you make affect something later on. You'll see. It's been 5 months since Rebecca was diagnosed. Breathing is becoming difficult for her. Movement is an almost Herculean task now. While her doctors say that we still have options, Rebecca is beginning to refuse further treatment. She wants to travel. She wants to travel the world before she dies. See all that she can while she can. She's giving up. I don't want her to. She's tired. Too tired for optimism. Too tired for treatment. She's tired of living. We argue constantly over the continuation of her treatment. She only has months left if she doesn't. She's getting visibly weaker with every passing day. She can barely walk, let alone travel the world. It would kill her. Rebecca knows all of this. She doesn't want to be miserable anymore. She wants the both of us to spend the rest of her life in some exotic country to elope from her treatment with money we do not have, with time she doesn't have. So I'm gonna go with the beg for treatment option on this one. I beg Rebecca to stop talking as though she's going to die. What starts as a heartfelt plea rapidly turns into me screaming and shouting at her. Tell her that we can't afford to travel, that she can hardly walk, that she's stupid for thinking we could do anything other than try to get her better. Rebecca quietly agrees to further treatment. It doesn't work. Rebecca only continues to worsen, and we are soon out of options. Rebecca can no longer walk or breathe by herself. She often cries, frequently wishing that we could be on a beach somewhere in the Caribbean. I feel guilty. just a few days until the anniversary of Rebecca's death. I'm not ready for it. Tuesday. Every day goes by the same as the last. When I first saw this, I don't know if it's guilt, loyalty, or just fear that compels me to stay put. When I first saw a playthrough of this, how can I have happiness when I denied her the same? I made the observation that the actress playing Elana looks kind of like my best friend's younger sister. Rebecca wants me to read some of her book on account that I never have before. I've always condemned her choice to focus on writing as opposed to pursuing legitimate employment. Her writing has always been a source of major contention between us. She wants to know what I think of it, before that's no longer possible. I'm kind of a writer too, and I know how much it sucks for people close to you to not support what you're passionate about and what you want to pursue. Yeah, it sucks. I don't know what to say. She's desperate for me to read it, despite prior altercations. This makes me feel angry and a little bit guilty. Despite everything, she still insists that her writing career is important to her. The very pursuit that has jeopardized our home, financial security, and our marriage for years. I don't want to encourage her, but it's her passion. We'll read it. This time around, yeah. Let's do that. I tell Rebecca that I will read it. It's a collection of short horror stories. I finished them all in just a few days. They're good. Really good. Rebecca's university grades were relatively poor, but she was always highly regarded for her fiction writing. She's really talented. I feel guilty. Only now that she's dying have I ever bothered to read any of her work. All these years I've kept Rebecca from her writing aspirations, and now she really may never reach them. When she asks if I'd read it, I'm too embarrassed, ashamed to admit any of this to her. I tell her I've been too busy. She never asks again. I often think that I would do anything to get Rebecca back. Would I? Wednesday. As you can tell, there's a lot of repetition in these scenes, and that combined with the lack of color really helps set the tone of what it's like to live with loss that consumes you. I refuse to get on with my life, and yet didn't read that fast enough. But yeah, it's almost as though I were waiting for something. But yeah, like I've dealt with loss, specifically losing family members very well, one was after a long battle with cancer, another one was completely unexpected, and both times were really hard, and were even harder for other people in my family. It's been 2 months since the diagnosis. Rebecca is exhausted from chemotherapy, sick of both the side effects and its administration. She doesn't like her doctor or any of her nurses. She hates the hospital and is very outspoken about how much she doesn't want to be around real cancer patients. Rebecca doesn't want to feel unable. She's restless and very much in denial. It's Friday night. Rebecca wants to go out with her friends. I tell her that I don't think it's a good idea for her to be exerting herself so soon after therapy. I need this, she says. I'm scared that this will be too much for Rebecca, that I can't keep her from living her life. Let her go. Like, she deserves to like feel normal when her life is all about her sickness most of the time. I tell Rebecca to have fun. I worry all night but refrain from calling. Around midnight, Rebecca comes home early. I pretend to be asleep. She's wheezing. In the morning, I asked Rebecca about her night. She says that it was a little too much for her, but she's glad that she went. Thank you. Thursday. Should I save? I mean, it would be simpler than just coming back to this all the time. Yeah. What is that? I think I see something by the bath plug. Something leaking? Doesn't look like water. Should I go in? Maybe just ignore it. Yeah. Ain't nobody got time for that. I don't know what was in the bath, but whatever it is, I need to forget about it. I can't be thinking about this right now. Not this week. I have some time before I leave for work. I can collect myself in the living room. I can pretend that everything is all right. It isn't. And here we have some options of what to look through and all that. Photos of me and Rebecca on the day we moved in. We probably shouldn't have moved into a house with such expensive rent, but Rebecca wouldn't stop talking about kids. Though Rebecca was set on living in the city, she also thought we'd need the extra space. I think we would have been good parents. I really like this part where you get to take a look into Elana's thoughts and see like little snippets of hers and Rebecca's life and everything. It really adds to the whole story. It's one of the notebooks Rebecca used to write her stories in. Come with us, page 1. Typical. That's the best way Jane could have described the night. The moon was out, lighting the room in a dull, familiar glow. The air was still, peaceful. It was the perfect conditions for sleeping. Many would agree with her, except the typical night had been disturbed in the most atypical way Jane could have ever imagined. Jane squirmed in the corner of her bed. She pressed herself against the headboard and the wall, hugging her knees. Most of all, she was trembling. It wasn't every night that you awake to find an expressionless child standing at the end of your bed, after all. The main question on Jane's mind was why? Why her? Why tonight? Why a child? Jane never thought of herself as particularly special. Surely this only happened to those who warranted it, the weird and wonderful, not someone like her. Normal. That's the best way Jane could describe herself. Her name was Jane Audrey Phillips, named after her 2 grandmothers, naturally. She had brown shoulder-length hair. It was practical. Brown eyes like her father. She wasn't particularly tall, neither particularly short. She did well at school. It led to a job that paid her bills. She neither liked her job nor did she dislike it. She had often thought she was a very neutral person. She didn't think much of anything. Not that she wasn't happy. She was, in a calm, contented way. She got on with things. Much like herself, the day could also be described as normal. She awoke 3 minutes before her alarm, as she usually did, ate a reluctant breakfast, and headed to work. Work was average, papers needed filling, reports needed writing, minimal conversation, and a sticky R key on her laptop. Returning home, leftovers for dinner, calling her mom. It was the routine she had for years. She went to bed on time and fell asleep in a timely manner. Nothing indicated anything odd should happen to her at all. And yet, there the child stood, at the end of her bed, in her room. It was a girl. It was wearing a white nightgown reminiscent of... Bleh. Was wearing a night... Seriously? It was wearing a white nightgown reminiscent of times far gone. It had long, unwavering dark hair. Its face was pale and eyes were dark. It said it was faceless. Whatever. It made Jane uncomfortable to think of the strange specter as a girl, so she didn't. A young girl wouldn't find herself in a stranger's room in the middle of the night. This was not a young girl. That was all Jane could figure out. The woman had already tried asking for information, but it wouldn't speak. It didn't react at all. It just stared at her. There was a chill on her spine as she was desperately trying to ignore. Almost as if someone was slowly dragging an icicle up her back. She pressed herself harder against the wall. The sensation didn't cease. Finally, the child parted its pale lips. Though this was once the outcome Jane was hoping for, somehow it only terrified her more. She shrunk further into the bed. She was shivering. "Come with us." Jane sucked in her breath as the child spoke. Its voice was small and soft. It sounded like a little girl. It almost left Jane less afraid. Almost. But the eyes were so dark and the stare was so intense. Jane desperately wanted to look away or close her eyes, but she daren't. The woman was terrified if she broke eye contact, the child would do something. She couldn't know what. The unease only grew. The child's face remained blank as it stared, though its head tilted to the side. It was almost cute. Only almost. Jane suddenly realized it was waiting for a response. The woman released the breath she didn't realize she was holding. "Where?" Her voice wobbled as she spoke, her lip left trembling. The child shook its head a little, its dark hair shuffling over its chest. "Come with us." So yeah, a little look into Rebecca's writing, and you'll see how that becomes more significant as time goes on. It's Rebecca's collection of horror movies. Well, some of them.
Let me die. Let me die.
The Brain That Wouldn't Die. I used to like this one. The film is about a mad scientist who manages to keep a woman's severed head alive for several days. The woman begs for him to let her die. Unsurprisingly, I no longer care for it. And that's all there is to inspect right now here. I really like the repetition and the film grain filter and the monochrome or desaturated color scheme. Please finish report by end of tomorrow. Maybe you'd be happier working somewhere else? Passive-aggressive comments certainly aren't uncommon around here, but I don't think I can put this report off any longer. I'll do the bulk of the work tomorrow. can't do this right now. Like I said, it all just helps convey the tone of the story that's being told. I used to take comfort in working here after Rebecca's death. I could pretend that she was at home waiting for me, just like before. A small part of me really believed that she would be. Yeah, that's a little harder to ignore. Whatever was leaking has now completely filled the bath. It looks like blood. I need to call somebody over to fix this. I don't want to. I don't want to have to deal with any of this. Can't deal with this. Not today. Not this week. Not anymore. I know that feel. Depression and other mental stuff will do that to you. Call. Citizen, exactly the kind of thing that you can ignore. I tell them about the bath, how it looks as though it is filled with blood. As expected, they don't believe me. I can't send anybody over until Monday. And I'm expected to live with a bath full of this for 3 days. Great. Yeah. This part gives me serious ring vibes. Rebecca always insisted on living in the city. It's expensive. We could only afford a small house. It's overpriced, ugly, and the landlord is a bitch. Were we to live anywhere else, this place would be a fraction of the rent I pay for it. I can get us somewhere bigger. Maybe then we could afford what Rebecca needs for recovery. I want to move. Making sure that Rebecca gets better as fast as possible is more important to me. But Rebecca insists that we stay. She says that the city is our home, that she doesn't want to leave our memories behind. It's a terrible place. We could save money. Let her stay. Like, she deserves some sort of happiness, right? It's the least we can do for her. I reluctantly let her stay. She insists that she'll recover without the extra equipment. We spend the evening reminiscing about the horrible state the house was on the day we first moved in. Rebecca did a really good job on it. She's proud. We get an urgent call about test results that day. Rebecca plays our wedding music in the car as we drive to the hospital. She sings along very loudly. She's trying to be positive. She's trying to make me smile. It's not good news. She's dying. It's terminal. I can't smile anymore. Friday. I think I heard something break in the kitchen. Somebody in there? I don't have time for any of this. I'm already late for work, and if I don't finish my report today, I could lose my job. Honestly, I'd rather be burgled. Should I go in? No. Probably the safest bet if there is somebody in there. You know, even if that somebody is like a ghost or whatever. Or basically just Samora from The Ring. Hello? Nothing. Nobody seems to be there. I guess I'll hang up. That's my home phone number. Is somebody really inside my house? Are they really calling me from my own home? Surely this has to be some kind of joke. I shouldn't answer it. They've broken into my home. I still really need to finish this report by the end of the day. But then maybe I should answer it? I have no idea who this person is or why they might be calling. Who knows who it could be? Who knows who it could be? Answer. Heavy breathing. Strained, raspy, and painful breathing from what sounds like a woman. It's absolutely horrifying. It sounds so painfully familiar. So reminiscent of Rebecca's breathing over the last couple of months of her life. Just as the cancer begun to spread to her lungs. Who could be doing this? Why are they doing this? Stay calm. Whoever is doing this is likely responsible for everything that's happened. This is just some terrible joke. I will just call the police, change the locks, and forget that any of this ever happened. Everything will be fine. Normal. Why would you be going home after that? Then again, maybe some time has passed? So yeah, Rebecca's story is pretty much starting to parallel what's happening to Elana. The figure standing in the kitchen. Despite everything, it felt like Rebecca. It isn't Rebecca. Maybe if I hide here long enough, it will leave of its own accord. We'll stay here until it does. Rebecca has been hospital-ridden for a week now. She's on life support. She could no longer move or speak. She could barely breathe. We had to take her. She will never leave. The doctors say that she has only days left. She's going to die. Rebecca is in horrific pain. She frequently gestures to her life support. I know what she wants. Honestly, I don't know what I'd do in that sort of situation. But since I'll probably replay this anyway, I don't know, this time, do not. I don't pull Rebecca's life support. I pour my heart out to her over the next couple of days. I say sorry for everything I did wrong, tell her how much I love her and how much she means to me. This isn't closure for us. This is closure for me. I can see the pain in her eyes and I ignore it. I catch her eyes drifting longfully towards her life support machinery. I ignore it. Rebecca dies from pneumonia 5 days later. You should have helped her. Saturday. And here we are now. Once again, we're looking through stuff in the room, getting a look at everything. Start with overdue rent. Rebecca was always too focused on her writing to consider employment, but we managed until I was demoted. Photos. It's a photograph of me and Rebecca at a party, just a few days after we'd met. I was a loner at university. I spent a lot of nights at the student bar alone, hoping that I wouldn't be. One night I wasn't. I met Rebecca. She very quickly introduced me to her circle of friends and invited me to a party later that week. We kissed for the first time that night. See the TV. Attack of the Giant Leeches. This is one of Rebecca's old movies. She used to make fun of me for liking it. She said it was a really bad film. It is. I don't know if there's any point to watching it, if it affects anything or at all, and plus, I don't know, content ID might, I don't know, just let's move on to more interesting things. Over to the table. So we'll leave the diary for last, and then the rose. Preserved rose. Rebecca gave me this on the last Valentine's Day we ever spent together. She said it would last forever, so that she could make up for all the Valentine's Days she was going to miss. It's wilting. Now the trinket. It's the crystal graduation bear I gave to Rebecca when she graduated, where she had encouraged me to become more confident and outgoing. I'd pushed and tutored Rebecca to finish university. I was so proud of her that day, and so very grateful. I like that we're getting a look into like both the good and the bad, like there is with any relationship. Ring. It's the engagement ring that I used to propose a few weeks after we moved in together. It was a very cheap ring. We didn't have a lot of money at the time. I was so worried that she wouldn't like it. I don't think she did, though she would have never admitted it to me. Now for the diary. (2013). Entry number 1. She said no. My dreams might as well just stay in my sleep. Who gives a shit? Clearly not me. I'll just stay in hospital and be miserable for the rest of my short fucking life. So yeah, this is Rebecca's reaction to our decisions. Entry number 2. So I tentatively asked Elana to read my stories. Well, not all of them. Just the ones I wanted to publish. I won't be able to publish them now. Oh well, she's the biggest critic I have anyway. She said she would. Makes me nervous. I don't know why. When we were studying, she used to read what I wrote. But that was for school. After I graduated and decided to write full-time, she wasn't interested. Started off not having time nor interest for it, ended up shouting at me every time I mentioned it. Clearly, dying is the exception. I've always wondered what she'll say. I'll never find out. She said she was too busy. It was just 5 short stories. She could have read it in the evening she didn't spend with me. I know she hates seeing me like this, but she won't be seeing me at all soon enough. Would be nice if she could just think about me. Entry number 3. Wow, that was the first night out I've had in so long. The usual gang asked me to go out with them for the first time in a while. Since I told them I was on the treatment, really. They were a bit sympathetic and annoying at first. Once the alcohol kicked in, things went back to normal. I haven't been so drunk in so long either. It was great. I could forget about all of this shit and just laugh and dance and do whatever the hell I want. I got tired and a bit wheezy. The treatment really does kick you in the balls. But I had a good time. I refused to let it bring me down, not even for 1 second. Elana was worried. I know she was. But I appreciate her accepting my choice. She doesn't always do that anymore. I think they'll ask me to join them more often now. They were so scared of it before. I think they were terrified that they would break me. But they can try all they like. Life can't get rid of me that easily. Entry number 4. Elana wants to move. Of course she does. She's been itching to get out of this place since we moved in. I had to reassure her yet again, this place is just a stepping stone. We'll be out of here when we can afford something better in our city. She wanted to live somewhere in the country because it was cheaper and we could get something better for our money. Since when is buying a house in the country cheaper? Like, well then again, if it's a small one, and like, some of the ones that I've seen in my area, which are pretty much like mini mansions. But life is a struggle. We should embrace the challenge. I told her that too. She doesn't like to hear it, but she listened. We love this city. It was always a part of our goals to live here way back when we were at university together. So why not dive in head first? She knew I was right back then, and she knows it's right not to go back on it now. I'm glad. I love our shitty little house. I don't care if it doesn't have the fancy equipment I need to recover. I'll recover fine without it. I don't want my home being turned into a hospital. That just sounds depressing. So, I don't even know how to write this. I don't even know how to think it. I've just been told I'm dying. They were really nice about it, but I'm dying. How does a person even process shit like that? I feel like it's not real. But I also feel winded. I don't know what to do. Entry number 5. You let me suffer. Did we look at the notebook before? I think we did, but something different there now. It's one of Rebecca's old notebooks. She used to write her short stories in these. Come with us, page 5. Afraid. So it was the only emotion Jane could put into words. The child never left. She stayed by Jane's side until the terrified woman left for work. Acting normal seemed quite the task for her. Jane returned home wishing that the child would be gone. Alas, she was sat quiet as ever at the kitchen table, turning her head to Jane as she entered the room. Jane spent the day trying to ask the child questions about her name, where she came from, who she was. The woman was met with silence each time. She gave up, continued as normal. If she ignored her, she might go away. But wherever Jane went, the child followed. Wherever Jane sat, the child sat against her. Ignorance wasn't an option. When nighttime fell, the child followed her closely throughout her routine, silent and expressionless. As Jane hesitantly climbed into bed, the child stood where she had done the night before and pointed, knitting her brow once again. Carefully, Jane offered the other side of the bed to her. The child did as she wanted and lay next to the trembling woman. Jane pressed her back against the wall as the child stared at her from the pillow beside her own. They stared at each other for a while, before the child sighed that soft little sigh again and closed her eyes. Jane didn't dare move her gaze for what felt like hours. Though the child didn't move, her eyes remained closed, and she was softly breathing. Jane knew the child didn't eat, nor did it use the bathroom. There was very little reason to believe the child needed to sleep. Paranoid, the woman remained obstinately awake. Jane opened her eyes quickly, breathing rapidly as she realized she had fallen asleep. The child's eyes were open, though her position had not moved. It scared Jane to wake up to those dark eyes staring at her once again. The room was still dark. Jane desperately tried to regulate her breathing. As her eyes swept the room, she let out a small shriek. Jane scrambled to sit up in the bed, pressing her back hard against the wall. There was a second child stood at the foot of her bed, staring at her with the exact same dark eyes. This child appeared to be a boy. The hair was shorter, but just as dark and flat, and partially obscured his eyes. The child was also wearing a nightgown. They appeared to be a matching set, though they didn't acknowledge each other. Only her. Jane very briefly tore her eyes away from the second child to look at the first. She was sitting now too, but her gaze was fixed on Jane. "Come with us," they spoke in unison. The woman sucked in a breath and fought the urge to cry. She shook her head a little in response. Jane felt the first child sit closer, her hair brushing against her arm. Jane looked down. The girl was staring right at her, leaning her head against her shoulder once again. "Come with us," she spoke, her voice soft. Somehow it calmed her. She felt herself able to breathe again. "Where?" she asked the girl. The child simply sighed and looked ahead, resting on her shoulder. Jane moved her gaze to the boy. He was staring at her. "Where?" she asked again. In response, he moved to where the girl stood the night before. Jane blinked at him and looked down to the bed. "Do you want to get on the bed too?" she asked fearfully. He did so, leaning against the girl, looking ahead as she did. All Jane could do was focus on taking breaths in and out. They sat like that until morning. I apologize if you can make out the background noise that's happening downstairs. What else is there to look at? Am I supposed to watch some of the movie? Okay, let's see a little of it. Because last time I did, so... yeah, that's what we had to do. Alright. Save again. It's waiting for me. What does it want? It hasn't done anything in me yet. It feels like Rebecca. What if it's okay? Maybe I should approach it? But then maybe I should grab a knife from the kitchen first? Just to be safe. Go in. Can't remember if I got the knife last time. Like I said, I have played through this before, but it didn't record right. So still figuring out OBS. This time, gonna accept. Same outcome as last time too. So I guess what I did was the same. Whatever Rebecca was, I was not convinced of my affections for it. It could sense hesitation in my every action. It could not accept me. I'm not sure I could have accepted it either. I was subsequently throttled to death for my uncertainty. It's over now. This is but one of 6 ends to Elana's story. Your choices incur real consequences, significantly altering your conclusion to Morph Girl. Will you find them all? I will. So, like I said, I really like how the use of repetition and desaturation help to set the tone of what it's like dealing with grief and depression after losing someone. And I like how it ties in like the old movies and the grainy film filter, and I don't know, I just really like the whole layout and presentation and the story of this game. Like I said before, like you see the good and the bad of Elana and Rebecca's relationship, like any realistically portrayed relationship, and obviously it does give me some vibes of The Ring, like with the Japanese text at the beginning, and then the whole coming out of the bathtub and the long hair and all that, obviously. I don't know, maybe that's what they were going for, like, sort of like, drawing inspiration from that. And obviously I really like the whole, parallel of Rebecca's story and what's happening to Elana. Like I said, I will be uploading a separate video showing the other endings, and hopefully that'll be up sometime soon. So yeah, I don't know, I really like FMV games. I have a few in my list of upcoming recordings. Some that might be good, might be not so good, might... Like I said, it's play all different kinds of games here, and if you have anything that you want to see me play on this channel, you can leave a comment down below. You can tell me what you thought of the video, and also if you want to see my upcoming videos, including my highlights of the other endings to this game, then make sure you subscribe. And also, if you like horror, you can check out my creepypasta narration channel, Go Spook Yourself. Link will be in the description, and also the link to the game on Steam if you want to give it a play yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.